All right, so greetings and welcome to Peering at the Outlands. This is going to be a discussion with the Chivalry. I guess I should have done that better. We were indirectly joking around with some of the other hosts to see who could have the most awkward, like, everything starts up and you're just... And here we are again, live at... No. Actually, now he said Course Field. That's gonna be stuck in my head now. So this week, I would like to go ahead and welcome Sir Gerwyn y Teigr. Nobody ever actually knew that you had a first name. I thought that was a hilarious statement. I've always just, you're Teigr. Actually, now you are Baron Arkell, which is a very... Oh, don't even... Dude, I even have my hat right here just in case you were like, okay, we gotta wear the...
You can wear yours.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency. I appreciate that. So just again, let me say welcome and thanks for joining all of us today. A couple other just before we get started, I definitely want to say thank you to their majesties for continuing to weather the storm, to steer the ship, to continue to be fantastic inspirations to us all in a time period where, as been said many, many times, we're all in it together. We're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, but now is definitely a time to still protect our friends and family so that we can all come and hang out again. Another thank you to the Marshalate staff. I know that Sir Adrian and Lord Ronan have been diligently working away and making certain that everybody's getting their authorizations up to snuff so that we are ready to kind of go back and start hitting our friends. I actually just managed to do that today. It was one of those, I've been putting that off for a little while. I guess I should reauthorize before they're like, nah, dude, not a chance in hell. And then for the last kind of plug that I'll say before we kind of jump into this is, again, just a thank you to all the volunteers. This is a volunteer organization, and be it from landed nobility to Earl Marshals to Kingdom Marshals to all of our A&S staff. In fact, all the amazing A&S that's been going on this entire time, all the service, the fact that we've had kind of events and opportunities to get together and discuss service and discuss how we can volunteer and how we can best serve our kingdom in the known world. Just thank you to everybody who's continuing to kind of keep that going right now. But for the man of the hour now, I'll quit belaboring the point. I was so short of a schedule. I was like, well, shit, how long can I stretch out this monologue for? So, Sir Teigr, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be invited. So thank you.
And I don't know why I'm saying us. I think I gave up any sort of quasi-royal use of the plural for myself. I mean, I'm not going to be like, well, Finn said that you would come on the show.
Yeah, let's not get into third person.
Oh, but it actually, if I just speak in the passive voice the entire time, that could be fun too.
Yeah. Well, Teigr always says,
Teigr always says. But well, so just how's everything going? I mean, I hope that you and your lady are doing well.
We are doing very well. Weathering the storm like everybody else. You brought up arts and sciences a while ago. Arkell has kept very busy arts and science-wise online. So that's been great. But yeah, I'm chomping at the bit to get out and see my friends and hit them.
And hit them. I do especially love when getting the opportunity to travel to Arkell and traveling to the Beulah site, usually for a Viking Winter Wonderland. But, well, actually... I know that one. I think we've been there in the summertime. We don't always go when it's freezing, but it just seems to happen that way. But I do love when the Baron takes the Tree of Valor and you get everyone running at you like, I'm going to knock the Baron off the tree. And it's one of those, oh, guys, come on. If you haven't watched the fact that he's just going to keep pummeling the crap out of you because he can, then, go for it, because we're all going to stand back and watch and just enjoy ourselves. We figure it's one of the things on the schedule to look forward to.
Well, I wish I were half as good as you're making it sound like I am. So.
Well, I mean, hey. But no, it's such a beautiful sight up there in the mountains, be it, I mean, winter or summer. In fact, the picture that we had for the advert for this with you on the skis, that was a hell of a fun day.
Yes, it was. And somebody took that photo at just the right time, because that was the only moment when I wasn't falling off the skis. So,
well, perfect then.
Yeah, it looks like I'm perfectly in control in that picture.
The best thing is you have the spear well away from your face. That's something that Johan and I have had to practice. That's just why we generally have removable spearheads, because we're kind of like, the first time we got on the skis and we had the spears, Sonara and Martine were like,
You'll put your eye out.
You realize we're far away from the hospital right this minute. And, so we, of course, oblige and take the spearhead off. And then I'm fairly certain Johan and I decided to race down the parking lot, and I'm pretty certain I crashed. But whatever, it's fun for everybody at that point.
Whatever. I had armor on, so crashing wasn't so bad.
Yeah. It's just a normal day at that point.
And every time there's any kind of winter fighting brought up, I always post that picture with the caption of Outland Ski Patrol. So
there was a fantastic quote that was just put up from His Excellency Roland, saying one of his favorite sights in the known world, especially fun to witness an elevation in that hall. And I think he might be alluding to you.
Well, I was as far as I can remember, I'm the only knight to have been elevated in that hall. There have been some other elevations, but yeah, that's where I got my belt and chain, and that was pretty special in that hall.
Fantastic. And I know that we'll get to that, because I definitely want to hear about your elevation and kind of the circumstances surrounding both the offer and then the elevation. But yeah, it's just the hall it's so wonderful in that it is cozy and intimate, but you actually can get a good number of people in there. And there is a fantastic heckling spot in the back. Not that I heckled from that spot, but I have had to shush some people in the back of court, because I'm, of course, always very respectful during those those times.
Yeah. Well, again, so going to my elevation again, we had 220 some odd people show up for my elevation, and it was standing room only in there, and it was cold that day, but there were so many people in there that it was warm.
Well, that's always been the funny thing being up, because people generally, like, your populace loves to stoke that fire right before court.
Yes,
they get that thing nice and roaring and everything else, which means that if you are lucky enough to be up in the front, so their majesties or the landed nobility, it is just one of those things where you're like, okay, can somebody open a window or something like that? Because I'm going to pass out otherwise.
Yes.
It's a little toasty right now.
Yes, hot toasted buns.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know, such a cool place, and again, a lot of fun. And I love the pictures that usually come out of it when we're doing a war practice there, because we're getting ready to march to Estrella. We're getting ready to march to the desert. So the silly ass Outlanders are having snowball fights and fighting in 2 feet of snow before we acclimatize and head south for the fighting kind of thing.
We're hoping to get cold enough that it lasts for 2 weeks. So.
I was like, we made an igloo this last snow. Just Sonara and I were out on the front lawn and just kind of set it up and hanging out kind of thing. And all of our neighbors are walking by like, have you slept in there? And we're like, no, we know who constructed this. We are not sleeping in this thing.
Yeah. And there's a perfectly good house right there.
Yes. I don't know if you guys noticed the big house behind us. We're gonna,
yes.
Whatever. We're going to stay there instead. But
I have the same philosophy about camping out in the backyard. Like, why would I camp out in the backyard when I have a house right there?
Well, I mean, so we actually, we've all done it. We've all kind of been like, camp out in the backyard. This can be fantastic. And I mean, I grew up in Trimaris. So, every kid goes through that one thing. We're like, we're going to spend the night outside. No, we don't really need to do that. Thanks. But again, then, we kind of, a couple of us do like to go out in camp and haul more junk than we could possibly need. out into the mountains to go camping in the middle of wintertime in period kit. But like I said, I think I'll probably talk to Sir Johan next, and I'm certain that that'll come up in terms of bad decisions and ways to inflict suffering on your friends. But of course, you are always welcome to join us. You know that.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, no worries. we distribute suffering equally.
Yes, equal suffering for all.
Yeah. But I mean, it would be so. We before the show started, we were kind of talking about Battlemore, and not the perfect Battlemore, but just the idea of getting there early, and putting in the 5 days of work and everything else beforehand, and that in itself is its own kind of fun service, fun suffering, fun whatever. We can all look at it right now as when you're in the heat of the moment, literally the heat and the dust and the everything of the moment, you're like, man, why do I choose to do this? But in reflection of it right now, it really does have a golden light about it, doesn't it?
It does. There's a real cool kind of bonding that happens in those early ons. Getting there and setting up everything, and we were talking before the show, by the time Wednesday and the event starts, Wednesday is my 5th day up there typically. And amazing stuff happens before then. And of course, all of it happens in jeans and t-shirts, not garb. And there's no swords, but there's shovels and sledgehammers.
I always, I'm going to just say, bless her, Eleanor Rose, whenever she was doing beautification and everything else, she would turn up in the golf cart with about 4,000 tent poles and flags. Yes. And she would go, oh, you guys are fighters. You like swinging things. Do you want to go ahead and decorate the entire site? And we all go and we put in a couple because we want to be helpful. I remember Sir Ollie, I think, spent an entire day or two just hammering into it. I think it was the old site. So, the ground was even softer. And come the start of the event, we're like, hey, Holly, why aren't you putting your armor on? It's time to fight. And he was like, I can't move my arm.
Yeah.
It's just hanging at his side. Like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to pick up a sword again. Sorry, guys.
Yep.
So I pressured you and you said, no, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to say, what is your ideal Battlemore? Your ideal Battlemore is now that everyone who has watched this says, man, I can't wait to do early on, and I want to be part of the magic of setting up the event. There you go, Your Excellency. I'm here for you.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I might not be there to help, but
yeah.
So let me go ahead and let's take a step back, because I think it's always it's nice to kind of get a little bit of your background history. You've been playing for a little while now. You've seen some stuff. So when did you start? How did you kind of start out in all this?
So I started in the Shire of Dragonspine, back when the rocks were still soft and the earth was still cooling.
Are you responsible for the dirt?
No. That's Duke Albert. I started in the late 70s in the Shire of Dragonspine, and I was a 15, 16-year-old kid, and I got turned on to this cool medieval history organization where we could...
How late in the 70s?
Pardon?
How late in the 70s?
Probably before you were born.
Okay, I was just checking. Sorry, go on. I hate to interrupt.
This cool medieval organization where the phrase that really caught me was, hey, kid, you want to learn how to sword fight? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I was a nerd, right? I played Dungeons and Dragons. I watched Star Wars. I love lightsaber fighting, all that stuff. So yeah, putting on costumes and learning how to sword fight. Pardon?
I said, why'd you put that in the past? You said you were. I believe you still are.
All right. Well, that's all for this week. Later.
Hey, sweet. Okay, $99 a beer on the wall. Here we go.
Yeah. No, you know what? I guess I'm still a nerd, and I guess I'm still proud of it. So, but back then, being a nerd was not the thing to be. But the SCA came along, and it turns out that it was full of nerds too, and so I got this phrase: "Nerds of a feather flock together." So we did, and
so you were in the spire of Dragonspine. You were in the Shire of Dragonspine.
The Shire, yes.
And when did it become a barony? Were you a part of that at all?
So I was in the Air Force when that happened. I think that was around 81, 82, something like that. When it became a barony. Somebody from the barony is probably watching and will happily correct me.
I figured somebody will let us know.
Yes. But yeah, I got started in the SCA pretty early, but I had fits and starts. Life would happen for a year or two, and then I'd come back strong for a while, and then life would happen for a year or two, and then I'd come back strong. So lots of fits and starts, but I can honestly say I've never gone a full year without fighting until this one.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, so then along those lines, a joke question that I know that I discussed with Germanicus, how is the state of your armor? Like, could you put it on tomorrow and be ready to go? Or is that orange string still holding it all together that you promised yourself you would fix 6 months and 1 year ago?
So my armor is in great shape. Early in the pandemic, I pulled it all out because the last event that I went to was Estrella last year. And whenever I get home from Estrella, right, you always have to de-dust the armor. And in the case of last year, it wasn't remove the dust, it was remove the mud. So I had it all pulled out and had it all cleaned up anyway. And then we had one fighter practice after Estrella before the quarantine hit, and we stopped fighting. And then late last spring, last May-ish, I figure this can't go on much longer, right? We'll be fighting soon. I sort of pulled it all out and replaced a bunch of straps and oiled. So my armor is, no joke, my armor is in great shape.
Oh, man. And if I remember correctly, you built, I think you built at least one of your helmets. Like, you've done a lot of the armoring yourself.
Everything I'm wearing currently, I have built. A few years ago, probably back around Battlemore 4-ish, I bought an Acer helmet. My dream helmet. Woohoo! Last helmet I'll ever need. Acer built it. It's a beautiful piece of work. I wore it for about 8 months before I got unhappy that I hadn't built it. Because I've always taken a certain amount of pride in everything that I wear, I build. So I built the one that people are probably most familiar with these days, that sort of early Crusader looking one that I wear most of the time. So yeah, although currently I have another piece of armor that I purchased that I have absolutely no plans of replacing with my own work, because my own work will never be to that level, but I have a brand new pair of Gellir gauntlets. So, well, they're 2 years old, but like, I can build good stuff, but I cannot build Gellir gauntlets. That's beyond my abilities.
No, I've tried people's on, and they're super fun, and eventually it might happen. It's one of those. I built my first pair of gauntlets. I went up to Windkeep, and Sir Mavriki helped me build them from one of the Polar Bear Forge kits. So I think they're stainless. I just know that the damn things weigh, like, each one of them individually weighs probably 4 times the pair of your gauntlets do. They were a great pair of gauntlets to learn how to fight in. They're a great pair of gauntlets for any kind of Thane anything, because they take so much abuse. And you're like, and soon I ended up getting a different pair of gauntlets that are much lighter, and you're like, oh my god, I can throw shots all day with these things. Weigh a damn thing.
Yep, that's what happened with the Gretters. Prior to that, the gauntlets that I wore for years and years were gauntlets that I had made. But yeah, but I got the Gretters, and each of them is like 1/3 the weight of each of my others. So
yeah, nope, they're absolutely lovely. It's always one of those funny things to be like, are you leaving those on the battlefield? That's not a good idea.
Mine have lanyards on there.
You're like a little kid with mittens.
Well, you know those chains that custodians have on their keys. Yeah, right.
Okay, if it's actually like those ones that have the zip back, so that the keys are always up in your belt, that's actually gonna be kind of hilarious because I'm going to intentionally run by you and just pull the things and snap them back at you. Hello, Your Excellency.
I was trying to give you a stony glare, but it didn't work.
You did. You totally. I felt that one. So okay, there was a question that actually it melds right into this, and then it also can kind of go on for some of what was your inspiration for being a knight, or why you always kind of, if you did, why you always wanted that. But this is from Lady Relena from Alberon. Is there a knight who you aspire to be like? Do you have a mentor who inspires you that is not part of the SCA?
So from history, I have taken great inspiration from William Marshall, who many people are familiar with. If you're not familiar with William Marshall, I recommend you read up.
I like the dude hosted attorney that I went to at Benzik.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was epic.
He didn't host it. I'm getting shit from Johan now.
So from history, William Marshall, there are numerous books out about him, and I have been fascinated by all of those books. Just even if it's double what he really, even if the books are double what he really did a lot. So he's been an inspiration, but the real life inspiration for me, I guess there have been a number of them. I was squired to Duke Albert von Drachenwelt from Dragonspine. I became his squire in 1985. And, you know, when I was a young kid getting into this organization, he was running around in his prime. And that was pretty inspiring. So, you know, and he took me as a squire, took me into his household. We've been friends ever since. So he's been an inspiration to me, and lots of other people have been inspirations to me in lots of other ways. So there's really a lot to that question, but I look around for people who are what I want to grow up to be. And it's served me well. You know, I see somebody doing something and I think, God, that's the way to do that. And so I try to do that. A friend of mine, Duke Hogarden, who now lives on Stiora, he and I used to put on armor and fight out in back of I used to have a comic book store back in the 80s, and we would throw on armor and fight in back of the comic book store. He was in education at that time, and he was kind of a big inspiration for me to get into education. So went to college, right? Became a teacher, and I'm in my 24th year of public education right now. So I've had a lot of great inspiration over the years, many of whom are in the SCA. So.
That's awesome. No, it's just it's neat to kind of hear that particular trajectory. Oh, there was a comment that popped up that I missed it.
That's okay. It was from Bardolph. Yeah. Saying he can't believe I didn't name him. Well, if I were going to name somebody with the last name of Dodd.
Okay.
Because his dad was an inspiration for me. His dad was a mighty man, still is a mighty man, and has been an inspiration for me in a number of ways.
But
so, sorry, Marty, but
I think that what Bardolph is getting at, and this would be Bardolph, Gunvald's son, husband to Mistress Sabia, which is the more important part, and Promise of the Outlands. I mean, come on, we spent an entire show discussing how humble and important it is that we all are inspired by him. So thank you very much, Bardolph. You've had your turn. Sit down in the back row again.
Yeah.
Or else you're going to get that nasty glare that Sabia does to people and when they're misbehaving in court. Holy hell, she's scary. It's awesome.
And I will say that Bardolph is inspirational in how much fun he has in this game. So,
That's legit.
Yeah.
And it's funny, not funny. It's great because if we've had the opportunity to meet Albert a number of times. Like he's a fixture in that center lane at any of the events in Beulah. And he always invites people in to do some sort of thrown weaponry. And it's just one of those things where he's always very polite. You don't want to walk through here right this minute. But then he always kind of, will take you aside and give you an opportunity to try something or regale you with a number of stories from, throughout the ages kind of thing.
Yep.
So, another individual that we joke with, Sonara and I joke about this, where it's one of those, we go to events and we have 5,000 conversations throughout the day. You get in the vehicle to go home. Oh, well, who'd you see today? Who didn't I see today? I talked to everybody, some people for more than 30 seconds, but most people for that amount of time. And I think that's going to be interesting when we all have the opportunity to go back in person.
Yeah.
I think people just need to, set themselves aside and people can just kind of wander from person to person, because that's about the only thing, that's as high stakes as we can get for these events right now.
Do it like a line tourney, right?
Somebody just in the background, bing, and you just slide to the left. Bing, slide to the left. But so then, okay, we alluded to it earlier, and now so when were you offered elevation into the chivalry? What was the background and the kind of the tenor for that?
So we'll go back further, right? I became a squire in 1985. And fast forward to 2015. Fast forward 30 years, basically. I went to coronation for Hrothgar and Ingrid. Walric and Cecilia were stepping down, and we were sitting there enjoying the festivities and the proceeding. And it was getting to the end. We're like, okay, Walric's about to step down, Hrothgar's about to step up. We're just about at the moment we all came to see. And Walric and Cecilia called me up. And I believe Bohemond was the herald. They called me up to present me with a back scroll. They had given me an award at the Arkell Defender held in Beulah several months earlier, but they didn't have a scroll for it. So they were sort of leading up to, well, we finally got the scroll, so before we step down, we're going to give it to him. So I'm up there kneeling, and Walric starts talking about how great that Arkell Defender was. There was a storytelling competition, and everybody was having a great time. And then he kind of stopped and he said, but that's all kind of old history, and today we're gonna write some new history. And then he called forth the members of the Order of Chivalry. And of course, in that moment, I immediately went all tunnel vision. You know how that happens when something super exciting happens to you. You call tunnel vision. So they prefaced it all by saying they had discussed Walric and Cecilia had discussed all of this with Hrothgar and Ingrid, that they were going to offer me admittance into the Order of Chivalry, but that the actual ceremony, the actual dubbing, was going to be done by Hrothgar, which I thought was a really cool thing. And I found out later that I'm the only knight in the history of the Outlands that has happened to, where one king offered it and another king presented it. So that's a pretty big honor to me as far as I'm concerned, because I got two kings to like me.
I mean, I just want to know what you did to Hrothgar that he was like, no, Walric, I want to punch him. That's a story for a different time.
So there's a few big fighting awards in our kingdom, right? The Stag's Blood, the Thane, you're sort of working your way up to knighthood. Well, years prior to that, back in the late 1990s, Hrothgar had given me my Stag's Blood. So I thought it was especially fitting that he made me a knight later on. And he was like, most of my fighting awards came from Hrothgar. I must be doing something okay.
Golden Duke liked me. I'm good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And that is really, as you said, that's a neat kind of bit of trivia. And And before the show started, we were discussing that, and that we know that Master Ian had been offered admittance into the Order of Defense by one crown, by Rorik and Slain, and then was actually elevated by Johanna Martin. Hopefully I'm getting the timeline right on that. I think so. It's been forever and a day. But it is one of those neat things, and that kind of neat transfer of power. And again, when we talk about regalia, we talk about traditions of the islands, the fact that we have an unbroken line of kings. Like, that actually is really cool, especially, that it is the king that then puts the crown on the prince.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to travel to other kingdoms and get, they always talk about interkingdom anthropology and whatnot, and I'm kind of fond of anthropology personally, professionally. But it's one of those things too, where other kingdoms, the crown will take their hats off, they'll put them in the chair, and they'll walk out. And it's one of those, is there a whistle? Is it a free for all? Like, did we just go pick it up? What happens here? And so, again, always interesting to kind of be around and see some of these differences in traditions, and curious to see how traditions have changed over the last year, and whether it'll be a full stop. No. This was just we're on pause. Now we're back to the real thing again, or whether there'll some things that'll continue. That's definitely not a topic that I'm not a huge fan of digital SCA. This, like, me doing these shows and everything else, kind of
says the host. Yeah.
Well, it's an opportunity to continue conversations and hopefully give people a sense and an opportunity to meet some of the members of our populace, to meet some of the members of our chivalry, so that when we do start up events and everything else again, people will hopefully feel comfortable enough to kind of come up and be like, oh, hey, I saw this, or, you mentioned this on the show and it really resonated with me, so I'd like to talk to you more. And I mean, you're a baron, so I think to some people that might be kind of intimidating. You were never intimidating to me. No, sir. But yeah, no, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of just sit, chat with people, and hopefully get people engaged and reinvigorated. As we do see a light at the end of the tunnel, as we do have an opportunity to kind of all come back out and start doing the things we love again.
Yeah. So I view my job as Baron as it's my job to make sure that you are having fun when you come to an event in my barony. And if you are not having fun, then you need to come and talk to me, and we'll see what can be done about that. And we're not going to make it uncomfortable, and we're not going to make anybody else uncomfortable, but we're going to do what we can to try and make this experience better for you. So, but I'm not changing your flat tire that you had on. Well, actually, I might change your flat tire.
It's amazing that there's no written job description, which basically means you can make anything your job.
Yeah.
If you really want to.
Yep.
But it's looking back, I kind of realized that I've been slightly biased, and it's more my own experiences kind of thing, like talking to Bardolph, talking to you kind of thing. Members of the chivalry who have also been or currently are landed nobility. Like, I think that's my own particular lens. That's my frame of reference for a lot of these things. And I think that you do yourself a disservice. You do so much more than that, and you really are you and Her Excellency, not to say that it is solely you, because if I say that, she's going to kick my ass.
Yeah, she's looking at me right now.
Oh, so. No, I know. No, I know that one. And this will be another thing where I've gotten into the habit, or I had gotten into the habit, of carrying two of the small little kind of whiskey cups that Sonara makes. Mm-hmm. And, whatever kind of bottle or whatever, making certain that I would always give a healthy pour and leave it with her and her attendants. Because the one time I made the mistake where she wasn't standing right next to you and I didn't offer it to her directly, I think I'm almost out of the doghouse on that one, but not quite.
Well, until you told this story, you were doing pretty good.
Nah, it's fine. Oh, so along those lines, and since it's a segue, it's not a segue, it doesn't matter. This is my first batch of, this is actually raspberry mead.
Oh, nice.
So trying to make small batch, fermented, fun, tasty stuff. We'll have to see if it turns out. It's actually tomorrow is supposed to be the day when I need to cant that off and put it in for the second fermentation cycle. And then, just let it go and see what happens with it. Yep. Hopefully it doesn't suck, but
I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, I mean, I realize it's a sip for everybody. Like, we can't put that into a horn and hand it to Mortigan, because he'll do that like big old like, oh, that's 1, 2, and 3. God damn it, you drank it all. Yes.
Yeah. But Saxons.
Okay, so let's go ahead, and I want to talk about, there's the what has been the most significant change you've witnessed in the society since the beginnings in the 70s. Sir Roland the Grey, Baron of Alberon, which I think is a fantastic question, just in terms of, you said you were intermittent, and you kind of pop in and pop out and pop in and pop out kind of thing. But I think it's fair to say that for the last few years, you've been a solid bastion of the center.
Wow. That's a question. So we could, we're the chivalry, so we could talk the fighting stuff, right?
If you want. I mean, anybody that's fought me knows I don't talk much about it.
Yeah, the transition from hockey and lacrosse gloves to gauntlets, that kind of thing. I mean,
was that your armored 50th year, the carpet?
No. Okay. Prior to the invention of, prior to my acquisition of basket hilts, I had 13 broken fingers as a result of rattan fighting prior to about 1995, something like that. And it was because I had a extremely subpar set of hockey gauntlets that I wore. But, they were good enough, and I didn't seem to mind having broken fingers. So, but then the good gauntlets came along, and basket hilts came along, and I haven't had a broken finger since. So we're good there. So that's been a pretty significant change in the fighting. When I first got started in this organization back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a real love of the works of Tolkien. And there were a fair number of people running around in this game at that time who had like elvish sounding names and dwarvish sounding names. And so fantasy was still a part of SCA culture, strongly a part of SCA culture at time. And we have definitely shifted away from that to more period, more historical kinds of stuff.
And I see you leading the charge, TEI double G-er.
That's, yeah, right. Yep. That name came about as a result of the large tattoo of a tiger that I have on my back, and how back when I was young and working on a ranch and in pretty good shape, I ran around with just plaid pants and no shirt on all the time. So I was running around with no shirt and a big tiger tattoo on my back. So that's kind of where that name came from. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then what's with the Welsh thing? And that's an honest question. That's not a because you don't often see it, or I don't often see it, and usually it's one of, like, I think about Turlo, and he might not even be Welsh, but he just kind of, you look at that name and you're like, I will call you Bob.
Yeah. Well, prior to the Teigr thing, I had tried submitting a couple of different Welsh names, nice, purely middle of the road kind of Welsh names. Mm-hmm. And my first 2 attempts were returned. Nope, not good because of blah, blah, whatever. So at the time, the Herald and Dragonspine was Newt, known today as Master Newt, Master of the Pelican. Newt always works gate at Battlemore. Okay. He was the Herald, and he said, let's go in a different direction with this. And so we went with the Welsh version of Gerwyn. Gerwyn was a common Welsh name. Gerwyn the Teigr. And back in those days, you could be the something, right? The tiger, the lion, the hammer, the axe, whatever. And that one passed. So there we are.
The entire name thing is funny, because there were 2 names that I kind of looked at. I knew that I preferred a monosyllabic name, because I've had the opportunity to meet wonderful people all over the known world who, when they give me their full name, I just glance over, go just like, I'm never going to remember that. I will call you this from here on out. And so it was, it was Finn or one other name, and I suggested the name to my knight, to His Majesty, and to some of his to some of my squire brothers, and they looked at me and they're like, "No, there's somebody that got that name and they're a dick, so you're not doing that." I said, "Perfect, I'll go with Finn. It works great."
You stole that from Star Wars, man.
Oh yeah. I got into it a little bit before then, just a little bit. But yeah, no, that was definitely a lucky out. And then the funny, like, so O'Brien, my last name is just O'Brien. It's nice and easy.
Yeah.
And I never intended with it to screw with the heralds, but the heralds were the ones that gave me it. So I just go with it and smile.
Yeah.
Because I had submitted the stuff, gave all the details and backgrounds. And they're like, well, we can give you a period, iteration of the name. And I said, great. And it's been a fun stumping block since then.
Yeah. When you sent me your email the other day and it had your S, I've never seen the mundane spelling of O'Brien. And my first thought was Finn O'Gratin. What?
Potatoes. Yeah, it's definitely I would say getting names, getting all the rest, that's kind of stuff. Finn the human, it was all Adventure Time. Thank you very much, Keld, or Kettle. Actually, Keld's it's good to hear from him. He left our kingdom. He is out, I think, in the West or Kaid. My geography for that is not the greatest, but a good solid Kergalenite who's making his way in the world, and we can't wait to see him back when we have the opportunity to. So okay, we 20 minutes ago or whatever, we talked about your offer and everything else. And then the actual elevation took place in Beulah, so kind of right there on home soil.
Yeah.
So where did you do your vigil? Was there anything that came out of it that is memorable? Is something that you would pass on to your own squires were they to ever be elevated?
So I did 2 vigils. I did one at Cairton 12th Night, because the vigil, my main vigil, as far as I was concerned, took place on the night before I was elevated, up in Beulah, and it was a crisp 5 below zero outside and snowing, and we built a bonfire, and we sat around the bonfire talking about everything and passing around bottles of mead and Irish whiskey and who knows what else. And my closest friends were there. My knight was there. The king was there, Hrothgar. And it was a pretty great night. So not to take anything away from the vigil that I held at Cairton 12th Night, but that was kind of a more traditional SCA vigil kind of thing. There was a room, I sat in it, people came and gave me great, much appreciated words of wisdom. And probably my favorite words of wisdom from that vigil came, so it goes like this. At any given SCA event, there are always newcomers. And at some point, if it's a smallish event, at some point, someone is going to point to you, Finn, and say, that is an SCA night right there. And that newcomer is going to look at you, Finn, and whatever you're doing at that moment, that's their impression of SCA nights. And they probably will never shake that impression of an SCA night. So
I know you're trying to set me up for success here, but I think you're just giving me enough rope to hang myself with. So.
Yeah, but that was a pretty weighty piece of advice, because I'm pretty invested in this organization, and I'm pretty invested in this organization's success, and I'm pretty invested in the success of our order, and to think that I could easily screw it up by being drunk, dancing on a table, And some newcomer says, that's what SCA knights do. They get drunk and dance on tables.
It all depends on your sense of rhythm at that point.
Yeah, well,
like, damn,
we're in real trouble then. If it's
yeah, now that you say that, I don't remember the Welsh being known for their dancing.
No, we're famous for
my
our
apologies
poetry.
to the Welsh out there. That might not be the case. It might just be my limited sample size of just Teigr.
Yes. It's our poetry, our rating of Western England, and something about longbows. I don't know, but
something about longbows. So we got you to thank for that. Awesome. That was for some of you bring that up and everything else, and this it's a divergent thought. The first thought is, as Baron, you have the opportunity to support so many different communities and really to be an integral part of all those communities. Like you said, it's your job to make certain that everybody is having a good time. And a lot of that is making certain that you have the opportunity to go and spend time with all of the various communities that exist in your populace, which was something that we tried our best to do. And I know that we had successes, and I know that there are some areas where we probably could have put a little bit more time. The second divergent thought is, because Hrothgar's come up in conversation a couple times, it was a Great Western War. So, we've all just driven a whole bunch to get out there. And I think they just called Leon. We're standing, 5 or 6 ranks back, and he gets shot right in the face with an arrow. And you just hear this from a man who quite often doesn't say a lot of things out loud, or, is very kind of quiet or circumspect. Mm-hmm. Bravely done, Archer, and just turns and walks off the field. And I swear that has stuck with so many of us that it just has become our refrain when you just get popped.
Yes.
5 or 6 rows back, and you're like,
yeah. So there's a question went by in the chat I noticed a while ago about one of my greatest experiences in the SCA.
Oh, yes, please.
And the question came from my page, Haven. So, by the way, you're fired.
I'm fired, or Haven's fired?
Haven's fired, but she knew that. I already told her.
Okay. I was like, I don't want to get involved in a household fight. Come on.
That's a story for another day. But one of my favorite experiences, speaking as a knight, was when Tam and Catherine were on the thrones. And we were at Lily's War. And there was this big bridge battle. And it was one of these resurrection things, right? Where you fight on the bridge and you get killed and you go back and you res and you come back forward. And of course, being Outlanders, we had oxygen aplenty, right? So we were all over. And Tim and I had the 9-foot spears, and we were fighting on the bridge. And then Tam got killed. So he was headed back to res, and I was alone on the bridge. And for some reason, I had like the homing radar on my spear tip that day, right? It was just one of those days where every time you threw a shot, some poor guy caught it on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having one of those moments, and I was just killing and waiting for Tam and all the other guys to get back. And I was by myself, and I hear the man who was the king of Callantyr at the time, who was fighting against us. Can we get an archer up here to kill Teigr, please? And
someone shoot him.
Yes.
Do it.
And I know it to the audience, it probably sounds like a silly moment, but to me, it was just a great moment. It was like I could do no wrong with my spear at that particular moment, and I paid the price for it.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
You look up, and there's 10 shieldmen running at you, and the arrows are raining down. And you're like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Why are you guys picking on me? Like, oh, that's right. I know why you're doing it.
Yep.
So, okay, through all of this, and what I love is that it's a stupid question, and that's why I love asking you right this minute, is, so what's keeping your interest? And I mean, you can see why it's a dumb question, because you've already elaborated on so many things, but I mean, just, we've gone through the gating period. We're getting back to an opportunity where we're going to start being in person again. You've already discussed how you can't wait to get your armor back on, but you are going to have so much more. Not only are you going to be the first knight that many people see, many newcomers, because we're still attracting members, which is absolutely fantastic. But what are the things that you want to do? Like, where do you see your arc for the next, year or two, kind of thing?
So knightly virtue wise, to me, this is franchise, right? Like what is my franchise in this organization? And after 40 some years in this organization, quite simply put, I still freaking love it. I just love it, right? I love putting on my armor and being the knight and doing the things. I love meeting new people. I love all the people in here. I mean, I love all you guys, right? And I haven't even been drinking. Normally, I don't get to I love you guys till I've had a few drinks, but I love.
Or it's 10 in the morning and you think that it's mead, but it's actually scotch.
Oh, I still owe you for that.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and Your Excellency in the back.
I mean, the answer is super simple. I still just love it. All of the best people in the world that I know are in this organization. All of the best things in the world that I know to do outside of my career are in this organization. It's just.
I swear he has a thought, and it's an amazing thought. He's making us wait for it, but he's going to come back at any point in time and finish it. Or if we had a screenwriter at this moment, we could go ahead and elaborate on that. I'm going to give him another second. It was the day you want. It was about to happen. It was going to be magical.
Really?
So hopefully I said everything you were going to say, but I want to give you the opportunity to actually say it. And that section.
I just want to do for people, especially new people, what was done for me over the years. There were a lot of people that put in a lot of work on me, making sure that I came along and learned to fight and learned chivalry and learned service and that I had a good time and felt loved. And I just want to do that. I want to pay that back. I feel a great debt to this organization for what it has done for me as a human being, and I just want to pay that back.
And speaking, I mean, for myself, I feel that you've done that. You've done that at least for me.
I'm just starting.
Well, I mean, I know that you're going to keep doing your Baron thing, and you're going to keep doing the chivalry thing. And what I love is that, again, it's a reflection on Battlemore, because I think that's where you and I have had more of an opportunity to kind of just, I'm going to say, relax. Quite often in the heat of the moment, we've always been going, 150 miles in multiple directions.
Yeah. Hey, Finn.
Yeah. Hey, Teigr, it's great to see you. No, I can't do the electric right this minute. I swear I'm gonna go do something else. I don't know how to do that, but it'll happen. Don't worry about it. It'll happen. But that's also some of the magic of it. Like we were joking, and it's one of those. Okay, the last 4 Battlemores that have happened, kind of thing. I was Queen's champion. I was Baron for 2 of them, and then I was King's champion. And if there's any way to make an event where you are like full tilt boogie running around insane, those are ways to do it, kind of thing. But it's those small, quiet moments of reflection, be it first thing in the morning walking around camp, and you're going by and people are just rousing, and they're having their cup of coffee and everything else. Sun's just coming up, and you can have those just a few moments to just reflect on how special and how magical everything, like all the things that we get to do, really are. Or as you're just kind of wandering from one camp to another, kind of thing, and you pop in just to say hello, just to see how your event is going through whatever's going on. And it's those very quiet, very simple, like a sharing of a drink, a sharing of a story, a sharing of a toast, kind of thing. Like those are all the small little bits of magic that kind of get strung along, that we get greedy for, that we get very excited about those opportunities.
One of my favorite things to do at Battlemore that's along those lines is we will walk around on patrol late at night, just to, scrape up the people out of the gutters and make sure they get to their tents and things like that. And those are great moments. You hear some people over talking by a fire pit, excuse me, right? Because no fire bad. Um, and so you just kind of wander over, and they invite you to sit down, and you do for a while, and those are great times.
And I'll take a brief moment to do it since it's a continual point of conversation with us. So Teigr, right after I was knighted, you had made it a point to come up to me and to give me this chain. And it was a lineage chain, not of a particular household or anything else, but of members of the chivalry who had passed it from individual to individual as they saw fit. So would you just take a moment and share the story of this chain with me?
So that chain came to me from Sir Michelangelo. After I was knighted, he gave it to me and told me that it was given to him not long after he was knighted by Torin. Not knighted by Torin, but it was given to him by Torre. Sorry, pronunciation, right? And so I don't know. You and I were always friends, and when you were knighted, it was pretty special to me, and I wanted to do something for you, and I did, something besides give you a 6-pack of Guinness. So you ended up with it.
Wait a minute. It was the 6-pack of Guinness or the chain? No.
Yes, it was.
Yes. Yeah, no. It's actually, so what's fantastic about that is I've taken that to heart, and I kind of want to be able to pass it on as well. Like I don't think it's a thing that ends with me. I think it is most certainly a resting point. And as we kind of continue this tradition, so to speak, of passing it on to the next person and giving that story, giving that background. Because as we reflected on in the first episode of this with Germanicus, the baby knight, where he has the baby knight's chain of the Allens, which is a fantastic piece of regalia, a fantastic piece of history. And so it's within all these other lineages that we can kind of share our story, share our history, share our backgrounds, share those connections that we all have with each other, and remind us why we like each other most of the time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But we are right at about that time, and I really do try to be respectful of everybody, our tech crew and our audience, and most certainly my guest for the show. But Teigr, it has been an absolute pleasure to take this moment and to just have a chance to talk with you, to catch up. It has been far too long. I'm definitely looking forward to our next opportunity to sit down, not only with you, but most certainly with Her Excellency, who I know is lurking in the background. She is an absolute joy to be around, and I would encourage everyone out there, if you don't know Their Excellencies, definitely introduce yourself, get out there, talk to them. Fighters, if you've never had the opportunity to fight Teigr, it's a super fun fight. He was one of my first fights, my first tournament I ever fought in at Villanova. You and I had some excellent exchanges. And I think it was, like I said, the first tournament I ever fought in kind of thing. And what was funny is we were fighting and everything else, and I managed to just boop you on the nose. We kept going, and you were like, "You hit me. Shit." And I was like, "I did something right. It's the first time I've ever done something right." But
well, sorry, I don't remember that at all, but
well,
I do.
Whatever. I was a hero that day.
That's right. You're a hero every day, Finn.
Well, no. But again, Teigr, thank you so much for talking with me tonight. Everyone out there, please join us. I believe it's going to be Saturday at 3:30 is the usual time. It'll be Mistress Sabia, and she'll be discussing the Order of the Laurel with Mistress Mirabelle, a dear friend of mine. So I hope you all have the opportunity to watch that show and ask questions. And again, as it's been said time and time again, be excellent to each other. We're looking forward to seeing everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Just keep being safe, and we will get to see each other very soon. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody.